What's up, my worthless sacks of shit? Today we're talking about micro four thirds versus crop versus full frame, but we're gonna do it a little bit different than you're used to. I wrote an outline on paper with a pen. Most channels today are just pushing full frame. The only time you ever hear about micro four thirds is when they want to talk about how much it sucks compared to full frame and how you're not a real photographer unless you're using full frame. Well, I say you're not a real photographer until you use a cardboard box with a glass plate glued inside, exposed with a pinhole. Then you're a real photographer. In this video, we're going to ask two questions. 1. Where do other systems fall short compared to micro four thirds? 2. What are the real usable advantages that crop and full frame has over micro four thirds? For the first question, where do all other systems fall short compared to micro four thirds? 1. Size. This applies to both crop and full frame. Most crop cameras are not significantly smaller than full frame. Their lenses are not significantly smaller. And lenses are what primarily determines the size of your overall kit, because most people aren't just walking around with one lens. They have a full kit that they have to carry around with them. So kit size of a crop camera is usually not that much better than a full frame, and a full frame is way bigger kit size than a micro four thirds. 2. Cost. This is universal as well. Crop will always be more expensive than micro four thirds, and full frame will always be more expensive than micro four thirds too. The lenses require more glass. The lenses will be more costly, which is the primary investment in any system, and that's never going to change. 3. I list this as a con because, for me, it is. And that is the 3:2 aspect ratio. I fucking hate 3:2. It is a terrible image aspect ratio, in my opinion. The 3:2 aspect ratio should have died as soon as we came into the digital era. It's not wide enough for a decent panorama, and it's too cramped in a vertical. I hate 3:2. I virtually crop almost all of my 3:2 photos to either a 4:3 or a 5:4. There is a reason that photographers of yesteryear shot on a 5:4 aspect ratio. I'm talking about your 8x10s, your 5x4s, your 6x7s. This was a universally agreed upon format because it had a great compromise. You could do excellent compositions in both vertical without being cramped and horizontal, and it's just way better in my opinion. I hate 3x2. I consider that a disadvantage. On a side note, another disadvantage of most crop camera systems is that they're kind of treated second fiddle to the full frame. They don't have very many native lenses, and the manufacturers just kind of treat them as an entry level for you to eventually, hopefully, jump to full frame. The only crop systems I'd recommend are Fuji and Pentax because they're the only ones that truly invest, I think, in their crop lines. Everyone else is... Now on to the second question. What are the real usable advantages of crop and full frame over micro four thirds? And I'm talking about real usable, not theoretical. There are 3 things that most people will give you. 1, resolution. 2, low light. 3, shallow depth of field. But how much of all of those 3 are really a make it or break it difference for 99% of photographers? Let's delve deeper into that. 1, resolution. The 20 megapixels that you find in a micro four thirds are often more than enough resolution in today's world for 99% of you. You'll never need more than 20 megapixels if you're posting online, which most people consume their photography nowadays online, and you can still make remarkably large prints from 20 megapixels. They also have options like high-res modes that give you an 80 megapixel file if you're wanting to do product photography and or landscapes that have little movement. You can get an 80 megapixel file out of a micro four thirds camera. So resolution on a practical usable level from full frame to micro four thirds is negligible. Micro four thirds has more than enough resolution for most people in most cases, and their resolution is going to do nothing but get better as years go on. The micro four thirds cameras of today have a higher resolution than the full frame cameras of yesterday. That trend's not going to stop. Tomorrow's micro four thirds will have higher resolution than today's full frame. For example, this is my little point-and-shoot Sony WX350. It has a tiny 1/2.3 sensor that has 18 megapixels. If I take that same exact pixel pitch and put it onto a micro four thirds sensor, I will get 143 megapixels. And that is perfectly usable because diffraction at this pixel pitch is perfectly unnoticeable at f2 and below, which a lot of Micro Four Thirds lenses already are faster than. So there you have it. Will you see 143 megapixel Micro Four Thirds cameras? Yeah, you will. In the future, you will. Absolutely. So who really needs 143 megapixels? Very few people even need 60. But we'll have it, and it'll be nice, and it'll be the standard. Guaranteed. Now let's go to the second one, low light. There's a small niche of photographers right now that need maximum low light capabilities and will always have to go for full frame if they're going to do that. People like astrophotographers, concert shooters where they're always shooting in dark. But that is a small percentage of photographers that need and or use that. And here's the thing. Just like with resolution, today's Micro Four Thirds cameras are better in low light than yesterday's full frame. That trend is also going to continue. Tomorrow's Micro Four Thirds will have higher ISO capabilities than today's full frame. Not only that, but as lenses get faster and faster on the Micro Four Thirds system, a lot of that lower light advantage goes away. And I'll get to that in the next one, which is shallow depth of field. Most people will bring this up a lot. It's like, if you want that creamy, bokeh-licious background, you got to get full frame. And this is simply not true. In fact, many instances, the depth of field on a full frame is too shallow. And you have to stop down to compensate, because otherwise you'll end up with somebody's eyelashes in focus and everything else out, or one eye in focus and one eye out of focus, because your depth of field is way too damn shallow. If you're doing any kind of portrait photography where you're doing like this or headshots, Micro Four Thirds will work absolutely fine for that. Go look at Joe Edelman's channel. He's a glamour fashion photographer who switched to Olympus, and he has amazing portraits, all using Micro Four Thirds. Where you will see a difference is when you're doing like an environmental portrait and you have like a 35 millimeter lens and you're taking a wide shot, subject's a little bit of a distance from the camera, and because as you get further from the camera, your depth of field increases. That's where a full frame will still shine, because it will help you isolate that subject that's a decent distance from your camera and still bring it out from the background. So again, small little niches, not very many instances. But that depth of field advantage will also be undone in the future when we get faster and faster Micro Four Thirds lenses. We already have 0.95 f-stop lenses for Micro Four Thirds, and I think a 0.85 just came out. So yes, we'll see faster lenses that will just close that shallow depth of field gap that full frame has. These lenses will probably be expensive, but they're going to be there for the people that want that shallow depth of field, that don't want to switch systems. So to summarize, the three advantages that full frame has, resolution, low light, and depth of field, are all going to be closed in the future as Micro Four Thirds cameras get better and better. So if you're a new photographer or want to get into photography, don't believe all the hype around full frame and listen to all the people online that are telling you you need a full frame system if you want to make professional results. Because in the end of the day, the only thing that's going to make professional results is you. Any pro that has any amount of skill right now can take any camera and produce great results with it. There's no such thing as a bad camera in today's world. We have nothing but good cameras to choose from. So don't believe the hype. Full frame cameras are great, but they're not the end all be all of photography, nor will they ever be.